Scholars, welcome to the counselor's office. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor, and we are here to talk about a game that has been reaching higher highs, that has been putting the gaming industry to shame, especially the live service industry, because it is 100% free, not greedy, and it has an amazing community ran by some of the most amazing developers, CEO, director, everything you could want in one package. You're probably wondering, Mr. Gaming Counselor, are you done glazing yet? No. I'm gonna keep glazing. No. Anyways, we're getting ready to play some Warframe, but before I did, I want to talk about, I saw this article and I've kept it and I want to react to it. 12 years in the making. Here's how Warframe went from Hail Mary to ongoing success story. It feels like you're always 4-6 months away from annihilation. Interview. We're a little more stubborn and trying to zig when others are zagging. Music is starting to give me a headache, so I'm taking my headset off. Says the creative director. I'm just having a headache, so I'm trying to reduce that. Says creative director Rebecca. As we've seen all too clearly of late, making a successful service game, one that sticks around for years, becoming part of the fabric of its player lives in the process, is anything but easy. There have been many attempts, some of them with the back ending of the very largest, wealthiest publishers and platform holders. A few have succeeded, but many have failed. We can see Bungie as one of those, having the wealthiest publishers and platform. Now they're being, held by Sony, and they can't handle this, chief. But Warframe. And then there's Warframe. More than a decade from its 2013 launch, Digital Extremes free-to-play shooter is still reliably hovering around Steam's top 200 most played chart. Let's see if that's... All right, here we go. This is United States. Ooh, United States top 7. And where is, I'm just interested. Where's the competition at? Oh, yikes. Anyways, what about globally? What about global? How are we doing global? Damn. What about the competition? Ooh. Yes, I'm an asshole. So here we go. Let's see. Yeah, damn. I mean, that's impressive. Like, they are hovering amongst like the top with Arc Raiders, some of the most top-notch games. I mean, it's still a mystery to me how CSGO is so popular. I don't get it. And maybe it's the gambling aspect. Maybe the million people playing that game are just addicted to gambling, and that's why they do it. I don't know. So anyways, having attracted 80 million players over the years and continue to launch on new formats. Android release is set for this year. If any service game success is unlikely, then Warframes is practically a miracle, given its origins. This was the last chance for a small studio, made as quickly as possible and self-published because its makers had no other option. A game that wouldn't even existed if it weren't for failure. Okay, we got work in progress. Oh, Steve, we had a project with a publisher. CSO Steve Sinclair says Steve is a G. And that publisher ran into financial difficulties and canceled it. Working at the behest of a larger paymaster had long been the bread and butter of Ontario-based Digital Extremes. The studio started out making pinball games with Epic. I didn't even know that. A partnership that continued into co-developing the Unreal games. Now, I did remember them saying Digital Extremes help with Unreal. After that series ended, it took on a string of other work for hire projects, from BioShock 2's multiplayer mode to The Darkness 2, to developing the sequel to a game made by another studio entirely. I didn't even know this. Wait, BioShock 2, I need to play that still. We didn't own our own games, right? Sinclair says, we made them for other people. That means they pay you the market rate, and you get a little bit back in royalty for them. Then you hope it sells like crazy. I mean, did I really make it? Hold up. BioShock 2. Was it really made by Digital Extremes, or is it in partnership? Oh my God, it is Digital Extremes developer 2K Marin, 2K. I don't know if you can see it. Let's scroll up. 2K Marin, 2K Digital Extremes. Oh my God, I've got to play this game. Okay, that explains so much. Okay, we made them for other people. We got the market value. Then you hope it sells and it breaks even. Anything else would risk emptying the studio's coffers, necessary in case production overran the expected deadline, or worse. It feels like you're always 4-6 months away from annihilation. After nearly 2 decades of living project to project, in 2012, the cancellation of this latest assignment left Digital Extremes facing the worst case scenario. Employees had to be laid off oh, that's right. I heard that this was the one time that they actually laid people off. Employees had to be laid off in order for the company to survive, and annihilation loomed. Warframe, Sinclair says, was the company's Hail Mary, based on an idea he'd been toying with for a decade or so. The idea was the sci-fi ninja, or at least more expansively, the game Digital Extremes 2008 release Dark Sector was meant to be. Its original concept having mutated in order to secure a publishing deal at the time. There was no risk of that happening here, since Digital Extremes would have ownership of the game, if only because no publisher was interested in signing a free-to-play sci-fi game. The idea wasn't much more popular internally at the studio. Sinclair remembers the wider team hating the idea of going free-to-play, a phrase Sinclair describes as being almost like a cuss word at the time. Damn. Do you think that live service games now feel like free to play is a curse word? I mean, Bungie is not making Marathon free to play. It's $40. Arc Raiders is wildly successful as a live service, and it's $40. Tarkov, I don't know how successful it is, but it's been popular enough in the extraction shooter niche, and it's definitely not free. So it's very interesting to see that. I feel like, I mean, Fortnite is like the pinnacle of free to play. Like, they make so much money, right? I think I see the top two is Warframe and Fortnite. Fortnite being the most popular, but I feel like these are the two pinnacle of live service. I don't think any other game does it nearly as well as these two with their systems. I'm not talking about like the quality of the gameplay. I'm talking about the quality of the free to play, what they provide and what they give in exchange. You can't beat it. Going to extremes. However, the team might have felt about the idea. It didn't stop them from putting their shoulders to the wheel. Warframe's alpha was developed within 6 months, with the official release following 6 months after, 5 months after, after the March 2013. Unused assets for the original version of Dark Sector provided a small head start, but there was still a mountain to climb. Getting the first version of Warframe up and running and out to our players was easily one of the most stressful, chaotic, and uncertain periods for each and every dev involved in the project, says creative director Rebecca Ford. I'm just going to call her Reb because that's what everyone calls her. With Digital Extremes now acting as both developer and publisher, it had to take on all sorts of new responsibilities. We all worked different roles and supported each other in any way we could, Ford says. At the time, her main responsibilities were community manager and PR. But Ford took a first stab at developing the game's website. We had to figure out how to take credit for our transactions online, but had zero resources. That's crazy. That this is all the way. She was literally a community manager, and she worked her way up to literally being the big honcho. And like, she's the face of Warframe, essentially, with the Lotus. queen, my liege. The game that emerged out of these frantic months of development offered a relatively slender selection of self-contained missions. But important foundations were already in place. Fast and acrobatic movement made even more athletic in 2015 Parkour 2.0 update, and a combination of firearm and melee combat take place in procedurally generated levels. And perhaps the most important elements of all, Warframes themselves, the player techno-organic ninja avatars. That is one way to explain it. Each of these suits of biochemical armor has its own set of unique abilities. The original 2012 roster included fairly conventional elemental characters, the electrical charge Volt, pyrokinetic Ember, but also vampiric combat medic Trinity. I still don't like Trinity. Able to redirect damage inflicted on allies to the body of enemies. Master swordsman Excalibur, and the stealthy teleporting Ash. I feel like it's crazy that Excalibur for the ninja, what Excalibur, the swordmaster, what is the poster boy, whereas Ash is literally a ninja. Like, Ash is literally the ninja. Beyond these base abilities, every Warframe and weapon can be customized with a huge selection of upgradable mods, turning the dials on everything from critical chance, elemental damage and resistance, movement, and attack speed occasionally boosted at the expense of another stat. It's extremely unlikely that any two players will be using identical builds in a mission. That's actually true. Even it takes some of the most meta builds. There's so many like variations of the meta builds that you can do. And just because people are using a meta build on a Warframe, they might be using completely different guns. So the outcomes are all a little different. That's the thing I like. Like you can have literally the same gun, but the builds are probably going to be different, mostly different. It's extremely unlikely that, yeah, there are now literally hundreds of weapons and 59 unique Warframes, not counting those Prime, and in the case of Excalibur, Umbra variants. All right, we got the feedback loop. This expansion was surely beyond the wildest dream of digital streams back in the days when it was being turned down by publishers. But looking back at the time now, Sinclair believes it was a blessing in disguise that allowed Warframe the time and space to grow, something many service games with more backing haven't enjoyed. Sorry, I was going to say something, but I'm not. If you're not super profitable out the gate, you get destroyed. Okay, I will say that Bungie, Destiny, Activision dropped their ass because Destiny was not lucrative in the way they wanted, because these big companies like Activision, and even you could say this, even Sony, demand high expectations in a very competitive live service field. And I think I would not be surprised if they're comparing live service games to Fortnite, which is like, again, the holy grail of live service, because they get all the money, all the attention, and they've been going for how long, and they still have millions of players. And Epic is probably literally living off Fortnite. You don't get a chance to find your footing. You don't get a chance for the team to get to gel, understand each other, and what the game is. He points to many of the service game projects that have fizzled out in recent years. You have a team come out and make something that is actually probably really cool and interesting, right? But they don't get a chance again because the stakes are too high. Today, Sinclair says confidently, if we'd had a publisher for Warframe, they'd have shut us down after the first few months. And I think that's pretty true. Like, that's, again, we've seen actual studios shut down, even though they think they make a successful game. The publisher's like, nah, you made a banger game, but we didn't make enough money. You're being closed. Because it's all about money nowadays. It's not about providing gamers with valuable games or fun. Once the money did start coming in, first from the closed beta player buying founder packs, and then the game's Steam release, the studio was able to prioritize rehiring the people it had laid off. If you did that under an agreement where someone is taking 70% of the revenue, Sinclair says it just wouldn't have happened. Is there anything else the team couldn't have done under the external publisher? Ford's answer is instant. Drink beer on stream. Drink beer on stream. I love it. There's laughter, but before Sinclair adds, yeah, I suppose there was a bit of chaos in the beginning. It's a tongue-in-cheek response, but it speaks to one factor Warframe's unlikely success. the largely informal relationship it has developed with its audience. Yeah, who cares about being formal? They don't treat it like, I mean, it's a business, but they connect with their players. They treat them like actual fucking people, not livestock. Like, swipe your butt, give us your money. No, it like they're in it for the game too, and you can tell that they enjoy what they not only do they enjoy what they make, they absolutely love and adore what the community puts into it. Like, I've seen Pablo, who's the weapon creator. He creates all the cool shit. Literally talking to people on Twitter, having conversations, shooting the shit. It's nice. It's sincere. It's not like deflective or dismissive. It's just a general conversation. Who appeared on these streams? Let's see. With regular developer update streams, who appeared in those streams and how they present themselves was key. It was very Wayne's World, Ford says. You want Wayne and Garth on the couch. You don't want them after they've been put through the record label, right? As a smart move as this was, retrospect looking back, Ford admits it was less of a strategic decision than a practical one because I was getting so frustrated answering the same questions and not reaching everyone. The game's 2013 launch predated Discord, leaving digital streams to rely on forums and in-game messages. By the way, they do in-game messages perfectly. I thought that it's crazy that this game has been doing in-game messaging and no other live service seems to be able to do that. It's so crazy. I thought that there had been a better way to tell the community what's going on with questions pulled straight from the player conversations rather than selected to hit marketing points. It was very much an effort to do a broadcast that's live, that's raw, that's transparent, Ford says, and they can circulate the answers amongst themselves because they'll have it directly from the horse's mouth. Work-life balance, imbalance. Of course, such a casual, unfiltered relationship means a direct line, not only for players' praise and suggestions, but also negativity. Oh, let's see, how are they going to pull a Bungie and start dismissing and claiming everything is negative and that the community is toxic and everyone's just threatening them? Let's find out. Digital Streams accepts that and allows it to an extent. We want them to throw some punches, Ford says, but they can't mean it. She draws a clear line between angry customers, inevitable when you're feeding such a large audience for so long, and abuse and threats. Thank you for the distinction. That is two different distinctions. Instead of putting it and just saying a generalization, you put it in two different buckets. Thank you. On which the studio enforces a zero tolerance policy. Yes, don't threaten the devs. Forehead. It's so easy. You do get some people that can really say some awful things about what makes a person, Ford says. We deal with that as quickly as we can to make sure that our team doesn't have to bear the brunt of continued personal attacks. And we try to protect ourselves by acting quickly, acting unified. Nevertheless, certain types of player feedback delivered via more routes nowadays that have ever been the case in the past can take a toll on people behind the games, as Sinclair attests. Maybe I shouldn't share this, he says, staring at the floor, but something broke me around 2018 and I couldn't read direct customer feedback. It comes from being so creatively invested in his work, he says. Ooh. I want to imagine there's a loving person who I'm serving. I'm making a meal for them. And when they eat it, I want to see the look on their face and have the joy come into their eyes. This is someone that isn't just doing it for money. Holy shit. And if all I see is someone who tells me I'm doomed and my game is dead, and my design is stupid and broken, my code is shit, everything else is excessive. But if your code is like, if your game's crashing, listen, if your game is constantly crashing, I think that's a fair criticism. But I didn't play back in like 2018, so I have no idea if Warframe crashed. Wait, did I play? When was Scarlet Keep? Oh, I'm dating myself. Scarlet Keep, Scarlet Spear. Wrong game. Sorry, that's Destiny. That's a strike. Wait, that came out in 2020. Okay, so 2 years later. Sorry, I wasn't part of this conversation, so I don't know how it was 2 years previously. Anyways, he pauses. Any humans like that, right? You read 50 positive things, but there's one negative comment, and that's all you can think about. And so I kind of broke and was like, I can't do anymore. It was still essential to take the feedback on board, so a solution was reached. Direct feedback would be handled by Ford and other members of the team. The essentials then sanitized and passed on to Sinclair. I've been lucky enough to have people with asbestos skin able to go into the furnace and extract the truth of what they're saying without the hurtful rhetoric around it, he says. Still, Digital Extremes hasn't withdrawn from its direct relationship with players. Quite the opposite. In 2016, it launched TennoCon, an annual, I want to go to the one so fucking bad, an annual in-person convention dedicated to Warframe. Though the game had previously had a presence at the likes of PAX, E3, Gamescom, it wasn't with much success. I remember fighting for stage time at PAX, Ford says. God, I remember like E3. Clearly still frustrated at the memory. Or at Gamescom and being like, people want to hear about Warframe. No one gave a shit, and they still kind of don't. So it was like, let's just do it ourselves. That's the sad thing, is that people don't want to hear about Warframe because they're in their little bubbles and they think that their life service is so good. It's so good, guys. I heard he's the best it ever was. TennoCon is a place, by the way, this is just such a good way of doing it. Just TennoCon is especially you want your fans. That's who you want. People, you want to bring new people into it, but people who have their minds turned off are just going to sour it. So you might as well just have the most dedicated people show up, right? I mean, that's the whole point of having these cons, is for your most diehard. Let them have their moment. At the inaugural event, Digital Extremes debuted a teaser for The War Within, one of the game's biggest updates at that point, alongside the usual, by the way, The War Within is hot. The usual, I remember starting out to play this game and people were literally putting this up on, like, you're going to love this. And I did. One of the game's biggest updates, alongside the usual new characters, weapons, enemies, missions, it introduced the Lich system. Warframe takes on Mordor-style Nemesis idea, allowing players to create. It wasn't the exact same, but the concept is there because they can't. Because unfortunately, who is it that owns Mordor's? Shadows, is it Shadows of Mordor? Who owns it? They have the copyright, that system, and they've done nothing with it. They're just a bunch of assholes. Allowing players to create a named enemy that they chase around the solar system, eventually defeating them in battle that rewards them with a powerful weapon or ally, depending on whether they kill or convert their foe. The following year brought Warframe's first open world, the Plains of Eidolon. 3 more have been added since. While play had previously been locked into individual missions, I cannot wait. But I mean, they've technically got more. Like, Duveri would be technically open world like that, right? I think so. Speaking about using the Archwing, a jetpack module first introduced for a space combat mission in 2014 and repurposed here as a transversal tool, or else slowing down for a spot of fishing or mining, each of which came with a new associated resource to earn. For the developer itself, though, perhaps no update was more pivotal than the new war, a solo-only campaign that delivered an essential beat in the game's ongoing story with a script that took years to refine. But vitally, it was released in December 2021 and thus made under remote work conditions. Someone smarter than me said, Sinclair says, but in person, you would build a bank account with an individual. Online, you withdraw. Over many months of video calls and Slack chats, every critical creative conflict reduced that emotional bank balance, he says. There were joyful moments working on it as well, but it definitely affected creative collaboration in a way that had negative consequences among them. The departure of some valued colleagues. Amazing skilled, creative people, Sinclair says, and they were done. I feel personally responsible for pushing them too hard on that. He says, those people have gone and done great things lately, and I'm very proud of them and happy, and their lives are doing great as far as I understand, but that was one of the biggest consequences that I'm not happy about. Damn. The fact that they still think about this, like they still think about these choices and these decisions, like that speaks volumes. Like, you gotta think that he is literally the CEO We're talking about the CEO is upset that these colleagues felt because of the mistakes that they made have left. That is insane. That's not something you hear about from any service game. It's usually people getting laid off and kicked out the fucking door. Bye. Like, it speaks volumes, the care to even their colleagues. Robot Rock. We speak to Sinclair and Ford at the end of 2024 as the difficult year for the video game industry draws to a close. In contrast, Ford tells us that it has been the best year in the history of Warframe. It really has. Or at least 2014 was. When was this article? Like, was this in 2014? And this is fine. I wanted to react to this anyways. Yeah. Oh no, this was 2025. What? I guess they're going back in time. Okay, so that's what's going on here, right? They're going back in time. All right. As difficult for the video game industry draws close to a year, that or they meant 2015. I don't know. In contrast, 2025. That's what I meant. Ford tells us there has been the best year in the history of Warframe by every measurable thing except for signups. In terms of new players, the best year remains 2013 after the open beta launch, and 2018 when the game came to Switch. But every other record, she says, has been broken. Digital Streams capped off the year with something of a victory lap, with a Terry Ford taking the stage at the Game Awards to introduce a trailer for the latest. Okay, did they update this from 2014? I can't tell. It comes complete with new means of transversal. Yeah, so 1999, we just beat this. And what you might expect from a game about sci-fi ninjas, of course, but it seems Ford and team have been toying with this idea for a while. Before she was finally convinced by playing Baldur's Gate 3, we think maybe we're wrong, maybe we're right, but there is a place for it in Warframe, Ford says. It's not shoehorned, and this expansion argues in the place for it. It's for the time, 1999 is when email relationships and online dating and all those things are normal now. Really, we're starting. Unusual as it might be, the romance system has been well received, especially the fictionalized messaging system that is central to its delivery. 1999 is a typical update for Warframe that has seen over the years unpredictable and inventive and deviates from what has come before it in significant ways. There are more obvious routes it could have taken. By way of example, Sinclair reveals that the Battle Royale mode has been pitched internally many times. What? When a game comes out and it breaks big, there's a temptation to chase after that. I'm so glad that they are being honest about not chasing trends. Oh my God. Thank you for not chasing trends. When a game comes out and it breaks big, there's temptation to chase after that, he says. We're a little more stubborn to trying to zig when others are zagging. It's an approach that has served Digital Streams well, at least within the confines of Warframe. A short-lived foray into publishing other studios' games, and in 2023 with Wayfinder, the final game it had signed being handed back to developer Airship Syndicate. It was awful for everyone involved, Ford says. We made the wrong decision for the right team, and it's exactly what you don't want to happen. It's a sin that I think we'll live with for a while. Framing the shot. Today, the studio is preparing to take in its next big steps with the forthcoming fantasy action RPG Soulframe. However, rather than try to create something that can immediately stand up alongside Warframe, Sinclair says we're taking a kind of unorthodox approach with it, which is pretend that it's 2015 again. That means starting small with a pre-alpha prelude and establish the foundations to be built upon. Oh my God, there's a skybox, is how Sinclair refers to it. Everyone is telling me you can't do that in the modern era. Times have changed. And I'm just like, I can't hear you. La 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 la. But it's, I love the I don't give a fuck attitude. But as Ford points out, the way Valve is handling the slow rollout of Deadlock demonstrates that you still can. By the way, let's look at Deadlock. 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 Where's Deadlock? Is this Deadlock? Oh, damn. Yeah. I would say they're doing pretty fucking good. They're doing good. Damn. This game's doing better than Destiny is. Okay. Besides, Digital Extremes doesn't want to turn its back on the game that, oh my God. Besides, Digital Extremes doesn't want to turn its back on the game that has kept the studio alive over the past decade. Just another middle finger to fucking Bungie. I don't care. I will continue to bully the billion-dollar company. I will continue to bully them. I don't care. So we've been slowly building up Warframe as a team, Soulframe as a team, and it will stay that way until Soulframe has its legs under it, and we can see people are engaging with it and are willing to throw a couple bucks our way. Then we can say, okay, let's hire a few more people. Let's scale up. But it's very cautious how we approach this. There's a sense that Digital Extremes and Sinclair, who appropriately joined the company in 1999, had been burned in the past. We've tried to do this many times in the company, to go the two projects or do another division of the company, he says. Every single time it's created walls and silos and created division and competition. My God, there's enough competition outside the walls. The studio's attitude today speaks to something that runs through Warframe itself. Counter to all the fantastical weaponry and the spectacular destruction of enemies that is offered, you can find it in the Romance system of 1999 and the Infinity system that underpins the entire experience, encouraging players to stay close to one another for extra XP and the ability to get to pet the traumatized and betrayed sentient creature of the Cavia in the oppressed workers of Fortuna, as the associated song has lift. Oh my God, this is so good. Lift together and rebel against the oppressors rather than turning on one another. A few years ago, an in-game survey was added to Warframe asking players how they first heard of the game. The most popular answer remains through friends. The community spirit alone has not explained how the game and the studio behind it has managed to thrive for 12 years and counting, but Warframe certainly wouldn't have been Warframe without it. And just a little shout out, Warframe had probably one of the most successful years even this year, 2000. Yes, the players have dropped back down a little bit to more stabilized. I don't know what happened there, but literally December, they saw a massive rise, and then they've kind of stabilized the last couple months. So it's stabilized, but damn, like they're already almost literally in the and that was just an update, not like a massive War Within update. The old piece was an update. It wasn't overly massive. It was a good update. So whenever if they drop another like War Within, we may see some bigger numbers. But overall, this game is worth playing. Again, old piece, fantastic story, continuing on after 1999, adding some banger missions, the lore itself, all so good. Yeah. Nothing has changed. This may be a 2004, 2024. I don't know why it says 2025. I feel like I've been baited. I feel like it's like published December. Yeah, I feel like I've been baited. Unless they've been holding this in their games radar, was holding this in their back pocket. I don't know. But either way, everything that they've said is still relevant today. They're still slowly working on Soulframe. They're still chugging along with their community. They have been consistent. Even a year later, they are still supporting their community. And that's why they are amongst alongside Fortnite, the free-to-play kings. In my opinion, free-to-play kings. It may not be the king of live service because I think that goes to CSGO and then Fortnite. Actually, CSGO and Fortnite might be competing with each other. I can't tell. But Warframe is definitely top 5. And you should absolutely, I'm glazing it because it has earned every last glaze. It is, they have, like, they admit their failures. They try to learn from their mistakes. Absolutely worth the glaze. They have done nothing to not earn the glaze. They've looked at Bungie and they're like, how do we not be them? And they've done everything completely opposite. This is how you run a live service. You should absolutely praise them when they do it right. More games in the gaming community need to be like Digital Extremes and Warframe. Absolutely. Anyways, I'm Mr. Glaze McGee. Hit the like button, comment down below, and let me know what you think down below as well. I'll see you guys next time, and game out.